So today I'm going to show you how to make solder branches for your cobweb and apple blossom instead of spending the money on the brass ones, which are very expensive. It's really easy to do. I just take a regular scrap piece of scrap piece of glass. I put my pattern underneath it using a 60-40 solder and an 800-degree iron. I just could start laying on the solder over the pattern, but try not to touch the iron to the glass, not because the glass will break, it's just because you'll get a better, even, smoother line. You'll also see that I'm using the side of the iron, not the flat of it. I seem to be able to follow the lines a little bit easier when it comes off the flat. You can stop. Just follow that line a little bit, and then you go back and do another round. Make sure that you touch that a little bit so that it adheres to it. And then you just keep doing here. Here's one more. And it kind of has that wood branch look, and then as soon as you patina it, it really makes it look like a piece of wood. If you go to my website, which is www.harrisartglass.com, you will also see a sculpture that I did with a torso where all the branches and the roots were done in this same method, and it really adds another dimension to your glass. Because the solder is thick, when you solder it back on to your glass, when you actually are doing that, it doesn't melt as easily because the solder is thick. So therefore, within reason you can solder this on with no problem at all. And you just want to make sure you're just laying it and kind of touching the other ends. Then once it's cooled and you can take it off here, it's easily bent and manipulated so that you can put it on your form. And here's ones that are already finished. They solder right onto your form, and you can put them on with the tacky wax to hold them in place. And here's a bottom one right here. It's nice to do your metal first, because then if you are off a little bit, you can always adjust your pattern a little bit to match that. However, because it's soldered, and then you're going to go up into your solder branches, it's all going to match real nice and easy. So just keep doing that, and when it's cold you can manipulate it and you can bend it, and that's how easy it is. It's just this easy, and you get it nice when it's finished. So I didn't bore you with doing all of it, but you can kind of see how I kind of watched the curvature of the branches, and we're just doing this last little bit. I even have all of them separated. If for chance you go off the line a little bit, don't worry about it. I just take a little lead nippers after I'm finished with it and just nip that off, like you can see here on 390 where that piece is. I kind of went over that a little bit. I'm not going to worry about trying to pick that up and do it because it'll just make it worse. So now all I will do is, after it cools off, I'll just pick it up and snip it, and then it'll be all done. And when you solder the rest of it in there, it'll kind of blend when you're soldering it into your lampshade. So anyways, I hope that helps you out with things, and just shortly I will show you a picture of how everything looks when it's all finished. And you can actually, like right in here it's kind of funky looking, you can actually go over this and just kind of smooth it out and make it kind of look a little bit more bark-like. And if you look at it, it almost does, especially like right in through here. If you're trying to remember what the contour of a tree branch is, you can actually really make it quite lifelike. And it doesn't look that way so much when it's silver, but once you get it patinaed, and I use a brown patina, and then I polish it with a brown boot polish, and it actually brings in some other tones so that it has highlights and lowlights, and it looks really, really good when it's finished. So there's another branch for the cobweb and apple blossom. It does bend real easily, so you can, I just put wax underneath there to hold it in place, just your wax. And when you're doing your soldering, yeah, you got to be a little more careful, but what's going to be nice about it is even though it's a little bumpy, it's going to add to the aspect of the whole thing, and it's going to blend in really nice. So after it's all finished, you can see it on the glass like this, and really all you have to do, it basically does stick to the glass, but you could just, and it pops right off, and it pops right off, but it sticks enough on the glass to have you hold it there, and as you can see, the glass did not crack. So there are your branches. They are separate, just like the branches come with Odyssey, and they actually look really, really nice. They work real well, and I've done it a couple of times, and they'll work really good for you. So now I'm going to show you how to solder on these branches after you have them on your mold. I've skipped the boring foiling part because I think we all know how to do that. Anyways, what you want to do when you get to close to your solder is you want to put a little bit of flux on the foil, but try and stay away from the solder part. You actually want to have a kind of a crummy edge or a rough edge on there, and when you put your flux on, your flux always makes it smoother. So once you do that and you have that situated, you take your iron and very carefully, kind of above the solder line or above your branch, you just start to lay that on like this. And you can kind of see that I'm not really trying to melt the branch. However, if you want to add a little bit more to it, you can always do that. And see, just doing it like this. And then got it here. Oh, I forgot to. See what happens when you don't flux it. It doesn't stick to the foil quite as well. She'll stick to the solder, but it doesn't stick to the foil. And you can kind of see that part right there. So what I'm going to do is just solder a little, or flux a little bit of that area there. And we can fill that in because you can kind of see that there isn't, there's some space there. And just kind of lay it over the top. Now it's going to attach itself to the foil. And see, now you have a little bit of a space because you put more on here. So that's just really easy to do. All you need to do is add a little bit more of the solder to that area. Build it up a little bit. It'll make it look very branchy-like. Take your time. And build that side up a little bit more. kind of hard to talk and do this at the same time. So hopefully you kind of can see what I'm doing. Building that up a little bit. And bringing it around. And sometimes you'll have to play with it a little bit for purposes of the demonstration. I'm not taking a lot of time to perfect my little bark look, but just by going over it and putzing with it, you gotta like to putz, just by working with that a little bit, you can reintroduce that bark-like texture just by running your soldering iron over the top of it. And smoothing it out a little bit. Anyways, there you be. That's that part of it. And after I get it all soldered and put together, you can patina it, and you can have it copper plated and do your Tiffany green if you want. Kind of anything you want to do. Just make sure that when you're doing this, that you're not keeping your soldering iron in one place too long, because you don't want to melt too much underneath. Although what's really nice is you've got this mold underneath you, and so it will kind of help keep things from going where they're not supposed to go. So anyways, I hope that helps you out with solder branches. Don't be afraid to use that anytime you want. I'll show you how it looks when it's done. And now you can see that it is all finished. Kind of see it from the sides. All in. Blends real nice with the rest of the solder. Now we get to take it off the mold, clean it up.